Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I am so sorry we kept you waiting. We were having a roundtable upstairs, and it was the capstone to the roundtables we've been having all over the Commonwealth of Virginia. And what an extraordinary collection of people that we had to hear ideas that are working, and yet also reaffirming some basic truths, which I'm about to share with you. So let me begin by saying thank you to Mayor Alexander. Thank you for welcoming us to beautiful Norfolk, Virginia. I'm happy to be here with devoted public servants from across Hampton Roads, Central Virginia, Southside Virginia, Western Virginia, and I also appreciate the support and involvement from friends in Northern Virginia, Sheriff Mike Chapman and Sheriff Glenn Hill, who both could not be here today. As you stand here and see this extraordinary collection of people on the stage, I think we need to stop for a minute and just thank them for their service. And I am going to quickly introduce all of them because they deserve it. So first, from Chesapeake, Chief Mark Soliski and Councilmember Debbie Ritter. From Danville, Major Chris Wiles and Major Tim Jones. From Portsmouth, Interim Chief Stephen Jenkins. From Emporia, Chief Rick Pinksaw. City Manager William Johnson. Representing Lynchburg and Bedford County, Bedford Sheriff Mike Miller. Representing York County and Poquoson, Sheriff Danny Diggs. Representing Petersburg, Mayor Sam Parham, Police Chief Travis Christian. Representing the City of Richmond, Major Ronnie Armstead, Sheriff Antoinette Irving, Deputy Chief Albert Stokes, representing Roanoke, a long drive from Roanoke, and so thank you for coming. Mayor Sherman Lee, Chief Sam Roman, representing Newport News, Vice Mayor Sandra Cherry, Chief Steve Drew, representing Norfolk, Mayor Kenny Alexander, Sheriff Joe Barron, Interim Chief Mike Goldsmith, representing Hampton, Mayor Donnie Tuck. Donnie, thank you for being here. And City Manager Mary Bunting. And there are many other representatives of our law enforcement community that are here today, and city leaders, and I want to thank you, because this is what it takes. This isn't about a single department or a single level of government. It is an all the above moment, because we find ourselves in an extraordinary time. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor for a moving prayer and reminding us why we have all come together today and that we need help. It's about fellowship. It's about working towards a shared mission. It's about making Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And yet, there's no place in the world that you can do those things unless you feel safe. Over the last several years, too many of our fellow Virginians have fallen victim to violent crime. Across Virginia, people wake up and turn on their television or grab their newspaper or grab their iPhone every day and they hear horrific stories, story after story, of violence in their hometown, homicides, shootings, and aggravated assaults. From calendar year 2019 to calendar year 2021, fatal shootings across the Commonwealth rose by 39%. For the first 7 months of this year, January to July, comparing 2019 to 2022, we are seeing a 61% growth in fatal shootings statewide. Makes you want to cry. And many of us do every day. And while violent crime is rising across Virginia, it is taking a greater toll on some communities versus others. We must recognize this. Fatal shootings were up 39% from 2019 to 2021, but they were up 70% in just 12 cities in Virginia. Friends, this surge in violent crime is a crisis everywhere, but it is an absolute nightmare in many communities around the Commonwealth of Virginia. And when Virginians see each other in need, we do not sit idly by and ignore it. We do not ignore the problem. We do not sidestep it. We do not turn our head and ignore it. We come and help. Earlier this year, I directed Public Safety and Homeland Security Secretary Bob Mosier who has a long career in law enforcement, to travel Virginia and meet with leaders from key communities working to address violent crime. In conjunction with the Office of the Attorney General and our public safety agency leaders, the Secretary conducted 14 roundtable meetings across Virginia and held countless direct conversations. And from these meetings and these conversations, the Secretary came back with a number of partnerships with those law enforcement and community leaders who were ready to work together to fight violent crime. And that's what it is. Secretary Mosier, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this massive undertaking. And your reward, sir, is going to be a lot more work. But I know you're up for it. I deeply appreciate your commitment to fighting violent crime in every community across the Commonwealth. Now, most of you are here today because you participated in some of those meetings. Your voice was heard. And on behalf of all of the Commonwealth of Virginia, not just our administration, not just leaders from localities, but the entire Commonwealth, thank you. Thank you for loving your communities and for loving the Commonwealth and getting engaged. Because what we know is that every community is unique. And the solution to violent crime must be tailored to the reality on the ground. But we do have three big takeaways from our violent crime task force work. The first takeaway is that we have a serious problem with staffing in our law enforcement agencies, and we must get more badges on the street. Full stop. In our key cities, there are 20% vacancy rates across sworn officer positions. Some cities are facing rates that are approaching 40%. The Virginia State Police currently has over 280 vacancies, and after the next class of graduates, we will still have 250 vacancies. The Virginia Sheriff's Association estimates a nearly 20% vacancy rate across staff positions, including sworn officers. The second takeaway is that it is getting harder to get violent offenders off the street, due in part to a lack of prosecutors, and candidly, in some cases, prosecutors who are willing to prosecute. But also due to changes in the way judges release offenders on bail. The Virginia Criminal Sentencing Commission data shows that of the pre-trial defendants released that reoffend, nearly 40% of them reoffend by committing a violent crime. The third takeaway is that our communities suffer from a lack of programs that offer alternative paths for at-risk youth. And we also suffer from support for victims and witnesses who want to come forward and testify to get violent offenders off the street. It's often said that our law enforcement heroes represent a thin blue line. A thin blue line protecting the rest of us from what is oftentimes evil. Friends, with nearly 40% law enforcement vacancy rates in some cities, with too few prosecutors actually prosecuting, with diminished community engagement and witnesses and victims less willing to come forward, that thin blue line is getting far too thin. And therefore today, I am announcing Operation Bold Blue Line. That's where we're going today, a sustained effort to comprehensively address violent crime across all communities in the Commonwealth, but particularly those that have seen this escalated violence that is ruining communities. Operation Bold Blue Line has 5 clear, actionable steps. Step 1, we will build on the historic investment in public safety pay we made in the budget I signed back in June, and fix pay issues for existing law enforcement, specifically wage compression that exists across all law enforcement agencies. Step 2, we will recruit more law enforcement officers to the Commonwealth of Virginia, especially from states where they do not support law enforcement, and we will develop a robust pipeline of homegrown talent. That's what we have to do. Step 3, we will accelerate the pace of the already appropriated $75 million investment in training and equipment to help protect all law enforcement and to further increase their professionalism. Step 4, we will hire more prosecutors that are willing and able to put violent offenders behind bars and keep them there. And step 5, we will increase our support for victims and witnesses to violent crime and invest in community partnerships that can help prevent violent crime in the first place. Now, I am so honored to stand here with leaders that represent 12 partner cities, along with Virginia's top public safety leaders. We just finished a meeting, which, by the way, lasted longer than we'd expected because the input is extraordinary. These are true professionals, experts, who can see things that work and that don't work. And we had a discussion around Operation Bold Blue Line and how we together can fight violent crime. In a moment, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend and partner, Virginia's top cop, Attorney General Jason Miyares, to discuss Step 4 and 5 in detail and the proven crime-fighting strategies we are deploying under his leadership. But first, I want to detail the steps we will take to address our first takeaway. We see in stark headlines across the Commonwealth, including just last week here in the city of Norfolk, retirements and resignations will push Norfolk police vacancies above 40% by year end. I'm pleased the article last week in the Virginia Pilot detailed many of the city's efforts under Mayor Alexander's leadership, which he just detailed again, to close this gap. But folks, we are going to keep losing this battle unless we can get more badges on the street. We need to support the ones we have, and we need to go recruit a whole lot more. That's just basic math. So our first step is to improve retention among our current law enforcement population, and we will make an additional investment on top of the hundreds of millions of dollars that has already been put into increased compensation to sign into law a new final step to fix compression within law enforcement. This is critical. We raised salaries. We need to finish the job. To all our law enforcement heroes in the room, we owe it to you to ensure that your career in protecting our families does not mean that you cannot afford to raise your own family. We will include proposed pay fixes for those positions directly supported by the Commonwealth, and we will also work with the General Assembly to increase funding for local police departments who commit to using the funds to invest more in law enforcement, engaging in comprehensive community policing and violence reduction tactics. But while we need to retain our current force, we have to go out and get more. We will launch an effort here at home and across the nation to recruit 2,000 law enforcement officers to serve in Virginia. That's why I'm proposing the following concrete steps. A $30 million nationwide recruitment campaign to bring in sworn law enforcement heroes from other states, especially those that do not support law enforcement. They want to come here. And also from federal and military jobs through targeted outreach and competitive bonuses. And as we recruit these law enforcement heroes, we will get them on the street right away with our new fast-tracked 8-week lateral training course, known otherwise as Option 5. We will hire a full-time recruitment coordinator dedicated to helping local law enforcement agencies fill vacancies. We will also we must grow our own talented law enforcement officers right here in Virginia. I'm directing Secretary Amy Gadara, our Secretary of Education, to work with the Virginia Community College system to enhance dual enrollment opportunities in our high schools for future recruits. We need to inspire the next generation of Virginians into this most noble career, and we are going to get this done. I'm also asking Secretary Guerrero to work with all Virginia institutions of higher education to create a badge and degree program that helps law enforcement recruits who go on to serve their community to get a degree at little or no cost to them. This will include prioritizing the public safety participation in the existing taxpayer-funded G3 program in the Virginia community colleges. And we have to take back a doubt that we don't have law enforcement's back. We must have the back of our bold blue line every way we can, and therefore Virginia should be the best place to have a career in law enforcement. And so, yes, the budget that I signed last year did include $75 million for training and equipment, and that money needs to get deployed faster. $60 million of it, by code, must be spent in grants to local departments. I've asked our director of the Department of Criminal Justice Services, Jackson Miller, and I say Jackson because not only is he great, but I want everybody to have his name so that you can write him a note tomorrow. I've asked him to accelerate the investment of that money as quickly as possible. And we will increase the opportunities for current law enforcement to find that training and support, in part by doing our best to get our retired law enforcement back on the force in new roles, including, yes, in the field, but also as trainers and school resource officers. We want you back because you did a great job and you will do it again. And of course, we will recognize that those who stand on the bold blue line are human beings. They have families, and they sometimes have concerns and issues. And like the rest of us, we often believe that they are superheroes. And yes, they are in many respects, but not all the time. And the First Lady and I were honored to make our first salary donation of the year to the Virginia Law Enforcement Assistant Program. It's a powerful organization that supports first responders after traumatic incidents in the line of duty. I am asking Secretary Mosier and his team to work with Virginia LEAP and other nonprofits like them to ensure we are doing everything we can to support the physical and mental well-being of our law enforcement heroes. Let me be clear about one thing. Our efforts will be targeted and they will be strategic. We will apply more resources to the communities that face the greatest need. But we will work with those communities that support law enforcement. This is about partnership, and we have to come together and do it together. We will bring these Commonwealth resources to those communities where their leadership, and I need to be clear, mayors, city council members, supervisors, police chiefs, sheriffs, Commonwealth's attorneys, where their leadership is willing to engage in a partnership like the one that we signed with the city of Petersburg. We signed a partnership agreement, and that's what partnership is all about. We can get violent criminals off the street. You see, when we put more boots on the ground, and when a community is ready to come to the table and support law enforcement, we know that crime goes down. See, I'm so glad that Mayor Parham and Chief Christian are here from Petersburg, because we announced a partnership for Petersburg. That partnership is holistic. It recognizes there's more going on here than just crime. And because it's holistic, we in fact are focusing on 6 different pillars across health outcomes, education outcomes, crime, job opportunities, infrastructure investment, and oh, by the way, critically engaging the community, churches, nonprofits, the YMCA, Boys and Girls Clubs, all of them in the community. However, this effort, while our relationship started with a health discussion, really was forged with a concern about rising violent crime. After a brutal week of fatal shootings in the city earlier this year, we provided a Virginia State Police-backed surge of additional law enforcement capability on the ground. And since state police involvement in Petersburg, along with the city's implementation of many measures, including a curfew, homicides and shootings have declined by more than 50%. Similar Virginia State Police surges are well underway in Portsmouth and Roanoke as well. And I want to thank the teams from Portsmouth and Roanoke for your partnership as well. And we've just begun one this month here in Norfolk. We know it works, but we cannot just rely on state police surges. We need a sustained, comprehensive campaign to put more badges on the street, to support them, to put more prosecutors, to fund community programs, to make sure that we are supporting witnesses and victims. And this is just the beginning. I couldn't be more excited about the future because we must go now. There's no time to wait. And I could not be prouder at this point to turn this over to my friend and our Attorney General, Jason Miyares. Jason's going to talk about the last two parts of Operation Bold Blue Line and outline the specific work that his office is leading and committed to make sure that collectively we bring violent crime down. Jason, over to you.